Is there evidence that Jesus rose from the dead? One piece of evidence to consider is the empty tomb. The tomb of Jesus was proven to be empty by two facts. First, the Jewish leaders had to invent the lie that the disciples stole his body. If Jesus' body was located anywhere, they would have searched it out and produced it. Second, just weeks after the crucifixion, not far from the crucifixion site and the empty tomb themselves, Peter publicly proclaimed the resurrection, and 3,000 people believed. If anyone could have produced the body or come up with a reasonable account for it being missing, they would have. There are several theories that have been proposed to account for the empty tomb. Let's consider a few of them. Some say Jesus just swooned and recovered in the cool of the tomb. This is refuted by the fact that the professional soldiers ascertained that Jesus was in fact dead in John chapter 19, verses 31 through 34. Further, how could a near-dead man remove the heavy stone and convince his followers that he rose from the dead? Consider what Christ endured. Severe beating, nails piercing his hands and feet, spear piercing his side, great loss of blood and bodily fluids. Some say that the women went to the wrong tomb. Not only is this contrary to what the gospel accounts say, it makes no sense whatsoever. If the women had gone to the wrong tomb and reported that Christ had risen based on that mistake, the matter would soon have been cleared up. First, the disciples were not stupid. They would not have given their lives for the testimony of some geographically challenged people. They would have checked out the story thoroughly and would have come to the truth of the matter. Further, the Jewish leaders would have made certain that this matter was cleared up by producing the correct tomb and the body. Some say the disciples were hallucinating. If they were hallucinating, it was a mass hallucination, because Paul said that the resurrected Christ was seen by more than 500 people at once. When Paul wrote 1 Corinthians, most of these eyewitnesses were still alive. Paul was not writing about things that happened long ago from when he wrote. Some say the body was stolen. This was the story invented by the Jewish leaders. They paid the guards to lie and to say that the disciples stole Jesus' body, according to Matthew chapter 28, verses 11 through 15. This is an impossible story. First, if the guards were asleep, how could they know what happened to the body? Or if it was stolen, how would they know who stole it? Second, sleeping on guard duty brought the death penalty in that day. The fact that one of the guards might fall asleep is perhaps conceivable, but to say all of them fell asleep is not. If the body was stolen, who would have stolen Christ's body? The Jews certainly didn't steal it, because they wanted to prove that he did not rise. The Roman government certainly didn't steal it, because the government sealed the tomb and had no reason to steal it. The disciples certainly didn't steal it. First, they were hiding in fear for their lives. They also had no opportunity because the tomb was sealed and guarded. They had no leader who could have envisioned and accomplished such a thing. Their leader, Peter, was a broken man at that point. He gave up his discipleship to Jesus to go back to fishing, according to John chapter 21, verse 3. The disciples would have been fools to have suffered and died for a lie. We must not forget exactly what the early Christians suffered for the testimony that Christ had risen from the dead. They were denounced by family and friends. They were hated and considered enemies of society. They were tortured and they were kept imprisoned. Their property was confiscated. They were crucified, burned alive, torn apart by wild beasts, chopped into pieces, roasted on racks. Their tongues were torn out, their eyes were gouged out, and they had to endure watching these things happen to their beloved family members as well. Some say the disciples made up the accounts. This would mean that they all suffered and died on the basis of a lie. which makes no sense. It is one thing to found a religion or a cult when you will benefit from it some way, but it is quite another thing to invent one if you will only suffer for it.